How y'all doing?
I'm Edward. I'm Edward L. Fairley of the No Love. I'm Edward L. Fairley of No Love Incorporated, the founder and CEO of No Love Incorporated. I'm going to start over. I'm Edward L. Fairley, the founder and CEO of No Love Incorporated.
Michelle Larkin of Queens Move Coaching, and we are the Love Lab at
The Love
Podcast.
Lab.
So, I wanted to. I'm excited about today. The conversation is going to be really rich. I'm excited about what I have kind of framed for today. But I wanted to start with, how you doing, bro? What's going on?
I am, well, there's a lot of stuff I got just going on in my mind about No Love, what it's evolving into, becoming things that I had no idea. It's taken on a shape and life of its own, and I'm enjoying being a part of it. So that's where I'm at. How about you, sis?
I am enjoying being a part of it too. I think this is maybe the second or third project that I've been involved in, and I'm really loving the growth of both the personal perspective on relationship, but also, to your point, my coaching is changing and evolving as well, and I'm excited about that. So, yay for the Love Lab
Congratulations.
and for the love between us as we
Hmm.
continue on this journey of sharing. Our perspectives in an effort to plant seeds that grow and build communities and homes and relationships that are loving and healthy, and centered in the real selflessness of love, right?
Hmm.
So today we're gonna do a lab. So, and I mean, like, back in school when you used to do a practicum and you had to get little experiments and things like that. So today we're gonna do some real life scenarios that are going to be pulled from the No Love Simulator. And so Eddie kind of mentioned that he is the CEO of No Love. This is the No Love Simulator, which you can get by connecting with No Love on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. You can get access to it. And so, Eddie, if there's a website that they should go to.
It's either noloveinc.com or howtofallinloveagain.com. Those are the two websites that you can get the No Love simulation from. But No Love Inc., that's KNOWLOVEINC.com.
Right. Earlier back in the day, it used to be from No Love NO Love to No Love KNOW Love. So
Mhm.
that's the journey that I know I've been on. But today we're going to go a little bit deeper into how relationships. And so we're going to do some real life scenarios, and really we're going to reflect on chemistry versus compatibility. And compatibility for me is a longer term notion of back and forth and learning each other and growing and being compatible. Whereas chemistry might literally be a physical attraction, a very surface level, or at least instantaneous type situation. But it also can be fostered over time, and that chemistry can continue and partner with compatibility and really bring that love that is kind of one that everybody's looking for. The one that we see on TV has both chemistry and compatibility, and that is the goal. But I would love to hear it from your perspective. What is chemistry and compatibility to you, and how do they play into a relationship?
Those are fairly new terms for me. So explain again what you say chemistry is and what's compatibility, if you don't
Chemistry
mind.
is that immediate attraction, whether it's their energy or their attractiveness, or that I'm just physically attracted to you and I want to be in your space.
Okay.
That energy, that spark, if you will. Where
Got it.
compatibility is a little bit more intentional, a little bit deeper, and based on values and ethics and um, kind of character, and are we in alignment, and that sometimes together isn't amazing, but sometimes you have one or the other. So I just wanted to get your perspective on compatibility and chemistry and how you see them.
Got it. Okay. So based off of yours, chemistry is I see, which I think that's natural. So I typically, you very rarely will hear me talk about someone being physically attractive. I think that's a given. Matter of fact, it's interesting.
I think it's a
I used
gift.
to.
I'm about to take a note on.
Yeah.
Keep going, but I keep taking note.
So I actually used to do when I was younger. I used to make a bet with people that if you saw an unattractive person with an attractive person, and you like, how did he end up with her, or how did she end up with him? I made a bet that the way that they met was in a manner in which the person had to see past their aesthetics. It was never a like I met her at a club or I met her at a function or what have you. They had to be in like a work environment or maybe a church environment, somewhere where they had to see each other on a consistent basis to where the aesthetics dropped and they saw past the exterior and they saw past that, which is where you're talking about the compatibility. And they started to, through their mind's eye, see how attractive and beautiful they are. So I used to have that bet. So I'm saying that to say naturally, if a person just met someone and they exchange numbers off the first meet, there is already an attraction.
Agreed.
Otherwise, the exchange would not happen. So I very rarely speak to that. And to be quite honest with you, if you're in an environment where be it work or church or those places where you're forced to see past the surface of an individual, that is where chemistry or compatibility, rather, based off of your definitions, actually takes place and it evolves organically into okay, we are compatible. That conversation piece where you have to actually get to know them and understand their philosophies, thought processes, values, and the way that they respond to you and to others. So I would say that chemistry is the aesthetics and compatibility is the depth.
I
That's
think
how I
we're
would
in
say it.
agreement in that. I think sometimes they can either could come first. To your point, I could work with you or get to know you and see how aligned we are and feel how much joy we have in doing or experiencing the same thing or having deep conversation and find you attractive after that, right? Like that wasn't my first thought, but I could come to have chemistry and see the attractiveness of you. Or I could immediately see you and might go, oh my God, this person is gorgeous. Full stop,
Exactly.
have a
And
conversation.
it's interesting that you say that. I haven't even thought about it, so I'm glad we're having a conversation. That's where the non-negotiable list came from because oftentimes people are or they don't have any depth. They're shallow in their choice or their choosing. And if they had a quote unquote list, it's not what we define as a non-negotiable list. It's a list of aesthetics. What he looks
That's
like, what she looks like,
do
height,
they have, they
weight,
have money, do they drive this
body,
car,
yeah,
things like
all of that. Those are the things that they are putting as the checklist to define whether they have the right, they've chosen the right one, which is absolutely insane. But it's typically where we are.
you said
It
that
is.
that is
It's insane.
insane.
It's
I think
insane.
from my perspective, I think people evolve over time to come to what you just said, right? I think there are phases that I have seen people go through where they have had I only date a certain look or I'm attracted to this person and I can't even see them in a relationship if they don't have these five things, whatever they are. And at some point that wears off. As I used to tell my son all the time, cute and stupid don't go together. You can be really attractive, but in a relationship, if you don't have anything to say and you don't have any depth, that cuteness will eventually wear off. And so I can say, as from my perspective, people have grown tired at times of being superficial and then look and started to look for the depth. But to your point, because they didn't come in with a non-negotiable and the non-negotiable almost comes after the fact, there is this whole conversation with their own self reflection. And again, going to the bottom of the triangle, how do I feel about myself? And how do I move to seeing other people in light of a loving version of myself? So I see that there's process there. So when you said
I,
insane, that's what I want to know. What did you
and
mean?
that's
You said
exactly
that's insane.
that's exactly I was about to speak to it right now. I say insane because I could tell that could trigger someone. But I say insane because it is insane to make a life decision. If I'm going to make an investment on a vehicle, to only look at the paint job, don't look under the hood. That's insane to me. I'm gonna
It's
if I
like,
look at the house and say it's beautiful on the outside, and I never go in and have an inspection, check the foundation, and that's the interior. That is what you're technically saying. If everything that you have is based off of the aesthetics, and you're making your life decision, your a partner decision, life or death, based off of that, that is it's gonna remain insane to me.
yeah, and I guess that's where we agree in that way too. I think that it is a part of the initial potentially, but anything that's lasting, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go deeper into relationships and dating and marriage. Anything that's lasting moves from superficial to depth to intention because it has to last. We keep evolving and growing. And so, even if that is a factor, it is always complemented by and always supported by and really kind of driven by understanding that there's depth to us and there is value in that depth. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions and kind of go through here. But again, we're leaning through the lens of chemistry and compatibility. So I may come back to that as we analyze some of your answers.
Do
So if relationships had practice drills, what would people fail first? And practice drills, I would say, like, and I think that's what the simulator is practice drills. So
it.
in terms of scenarios, where have you seen in your experience with note love and the cards and developing the cards, where do people have the most that's harsh. I don't. That's too personal. I don't like that. Is there any card or a scenario that tends to trigger people to really resist or really feel challenged?
I mean, I can't think of a specific cards, but all the cards that I mean, I can't say all the cards that make you look at yourself because they're all cards. The simulation is set up to make you look at you, and this is what we do not do. We feel comfortable in blaming other people so that they will be the reason for the failed relationship, as opposed to saying, "I own it, and now I have to fix it." If it's their fault, then you have no work to do. If it's your fault, you have work to do. You have to do that deep digging, that honest conversation with myself. The I have been the common denominator in all of these relationships. So could it be me? And if it is you, what is it about you that's causing this to happen? So all of those things are where people struggle with the simulation. And because it looks like a board game, it, it looks it looks like a board game. It presents as a board game, and all the colors are pretty, and you have the dice and the pawns,
He's talking about.
and you in the cards, and you maneuver. When I see people roll that dice or that die rather, because you start with one die, uh, and they roll that die and they land on that space and they read that scenario, they read that landing space, and it's like you see their legs going from swinging to this is about to be fun to oh shoot
This ain't fun no
this
more. This is a here. I don't want to do this.
this this just got real. So my response to that, and I tell people, it's interesting. I've seen on Facebook where they're like, describe marriage in one word, and I say mirror every time, mirror. And I tell people, if you do not like looking at yourself, marriage is going to be extremely difficult. Relationships are always going to be difficult, and oftentimes it's because you will go into it looking for the other person to resolve your internal issues, and it's all you.
I
I
was
think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Good. No, no,
I
no.
was
Go
just gonna
ahead.
say, like, and to sum up what you're saying and to piggyback off of that, haven't played basketball, right? I think if we were running practice drills, the thing that people fail most at, as in terms of the way that you just described it, is realizing that they're playing basketball, not football, uh, or coming in with the wrong equipment, and misassessing what they're expected to do. Even though sports have common uh, preparations, meaning you have to be fit. There's practice. There's some commonality there. So we come into relationship looking. We're just going to start with dating, right? We come in thinking that it's one thing, which, like you said, it's just all about me. I'm all about getting my needs met. All about, if they don't meet my needs, then yada yada yada. But then as you realize that as you get into past dating and moving into I want a real relationship that lasts, you realize, oh, this is a different. This ain't football. It's basketball. I gotta reframe how I come at this, which is why again this episode is about the lab. Like it's about getting in the lab, rolling up your sleeves, being okay with being in the mirror, thinking through some of the things in the card because you may have came in thinking it's just about chemistry, and if the chemistry is good, the rest is gonna fall into place. But relationships take more than that, right? Like,
Oh, now you didn't open up a can of worms. And I'm going off of your analogies. I
gone,
love
bro.
analogies. I like metaphors. So if we're going to use analogies and metaphors, we're going to stick with the one that you brought to the table, which is basketball. So if we were going to conceptualize this, the metaphor would be the simulation is you going into basketball and you're nice. You're really good, but you've only practiced on your strong hand. And what happened is the simulation or what looks like a game, it identified that you did not work on your offhand, your left hand. So if you're right-handed, you didn't work on your left hand. And the game is going to come and they're going to put their left foot up and they're going to guard
Make you go
your
left.
right
You go
hand
right. They're gonna
and
make
they're
you go
going to make you go left and they're going to expose your weakness, which you did not work on. And now you are exposed and now you look like you're not good. You actually are pretty good. But now they've made you look terrible because they've identified what your weakness is and what you're not willing to work on. And now you're upset with them because they keep guarding something that you did not work on, as opposed to you going back to the lab, going back to the gym and strengthening your offhand so that it doesn't matter which side they put you, you're strong no matter where they put you at, to where you have no weaknesses. We are here to force you to go left so that you can strengthen your left hand so that by the time somebody comes at you, you don't have to look down and try to find the ball.
your eyes on.
Either way they reach, they reach, you teach. You're gonna show them that you know what it is that you're doing. So that I appreciate you the alley oop of that analogy because that's perfect. That's what this is. It's exposing your weakness and forcing you to either fold and always lose at the game of love, so to speak, or strengthen your weaknesses and then succeed at it.
Hey, again, having come through playing basketball during high school, not yeah, but winning and
Yeah.
playing championships, it's courage.
Yeah.
It's courage to look at your weakness and being exposed, especially when you're in an environment where you're trying to learn and your weakness has been exposed in front of people, right? And
Exactly.
you're being called out. But if you
Exactly.
want to stay on the team, if you want to keep developing the craft, you stay at
Mhm.
it and you
Yeah.
stay committed to the process. And that's really part of why this is a lab episode, is because we want to like force you left. But we also want you to challenge yourself to stay. And as we go through some scenarios, kind of reflect and say, hey, if I didn't know that about myself, I want to dig more and figure out how I can strengthen that area of weakness.
Well, certainly.
Um, How do you identify emotional consistency? I know that, people who come to you often are triggered by an emotional um, mishap or situation, and it triggers them to be inconsistent, or that it may be that they aren't comfortable. What kinds of, um, how would you describe or how does emotional consistency look to you?
I need you to define it. I really, yeah, I'm not sure. Emotional consistency. I'm not following what that means. What does
Emotional
that mean to you?
consistency, I'm going to reframe as emotional safety. How do you create emotional safety for your partner, or emotional safety for you? And I say that because when people typically come to a coach or for help, they are feeling either vulnerable or emotionally not protected or feeling emotionally hurt. Or emotions typically trigger the call for help. So, my question to you is how would you describe someone who's emotionally, if we don't take away the word consistency, emotionally healthy? Or how can they heal or bounce back from an emotional blow in a relationship?
So you're talking about me as the coach, someone coming to me. How do I give them
Yes, you
emotional
as the coach.
safety? Okay. So if someone comes, when people come to me to give them emotional safety, I always share first. And this is uncommon in practice. But if I can tell that we are talking about an area that they feel vulnerable or they're struggling to share, I share mine first. I've been through all of this stuff. Been cheated on, I've cheated, I've done anything that you can bring up, I've done or I've been through. And I've been on both sides of it all. So I will share mine first and how I either overcame it or what have you. In doing so, that gives them permission to share theirs. But if you're acting like you have your stuff all together and you don't share, you don't give permission for other people to share. And I always say this, and it's a broad statement, and there's so many facets to it, but I always say love goes first. Love always goes first. So I lovingly share what people call vulnerability, but I call just it happened to me too. Yeah, like you're not the only one that's been through this. And I'll share, and which allows for them to say, "Oh, well, if he could share that." And mine is always darker. I promise. I'm like, that's all you got. So
This
I
kind
mine is
soul has wrapped up in some dark history, has
mine
survived some things.
mine is always worse, and I make sure of it. So to give them that, oh well, that whole concept of, oh well, if he can share that, then I can share this. So that's how I create comfort, and it's really quick. Like when you start sharing stuff, people just like, dang, if you can share that. For one, it shows that you're human. Two, it shows that okay, you've been through stuff. And three, it says, okay, well, if he or she felt comfortable enough to share that, then I can feel comfortable enough to share what I got.
So let's move from that behavior is also modeling for people how to show up in conversation with their partners. They ought to be able to share first to create the space where it's not judgy. Would you agree?
Yeah, but see, here's the problem. Most people don't love themselves. And what I mean by that,
How did we get all the way over there from this simple question? But go ahead, bro.
it seems simple, but if you can't share, that means you're scared that this person is going to leave you for sharing. That's the only reason why you.
Hey,
That's
hey,
the
hold
only reason
on.
why
That's a full
you share.
stop moment. Hey, bro. If you don't share, then there's a part of you that's afraid that this person will leave if you share
Because you share.
because you share. Okay.
Yeah. Now that is the fault of both parties.
Okay.
It's the fault of you for not loving yourself enough to be in a relationship that allows for you to be you. So
Unapologetically.
that's
Just full
unapologetically
transparency, my
you.
scars, my accomplishments, all of it. It's all on the table. I'm just here.
It's the other person's fault because more than likely, and this is not always the case, but it starts with you. But more than likely, when it comes to relationships, especially marriage, they've been in a predicament where they either saw you respond to something that made them feel like they can't share with you, or you actually responded to them in a manner that said, "Oh, I can't share with him or her." And what a lot of people do, because I did counsel and therapy for children and adults. So I've had to probe, like, hey, so if your son was this, would you be okay with it? Yeah, I tell my son could tell me anything, or my daughter could tell me anything, and then I'll start asking questions. Well, had he or she said something and you responded? No, I've never been like that. And then I'll say something like, well, was there any? Did you ever watch a movie or a show with him or her, and it has scenario in it that's similar to this, and you expressed vocally out loud something that suggests, "Oh, I can't tell mom or dad this," and then you'll see their eyes light up, like, "Oh shoot!" They can see, like you can see them see the moment, and I'm like, "That was it. You caused him or her to not feel comfortable enough to share what it is that they got going on with you because you suggested that you would reject them or that you would not accept them if they did or said such thing."
So you set a precedent for this space where they don't feel like they can share, or you set a precedent by not loving yourself enough to show up as yourself. Either way, there is ownership on either side. And I said this is part of laying the foundation for compatibility, right? I can't be sure I'm compatible with you unless I get to see the real full you, right? And I can't see the full you, and you can't see the full me if we are afraid to share.
That's fair. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I think that the answer to how do you how do you identify emotional consistency, I would say is from the foundation of love, right? Of loving yourself, where you can show up as truthful and honest, both with yourself and with someone else. That leads to consistency because there is nothing to hide. There is no dance to do. There is no avoiding of X, Y, or Z because I am showing up authentically. In which case, I'm going to be consistent. And that is one thing that I will always high five you for because you do show up that way. And for me, who, when I met you over 10 years ago, I was probably in a more wounded state and was looking for inconsistency. So when you showed up authentically and truthful about everything and anything, even the crazy, I was like, wait, what? But that is what allows for consistency is a real deep knowing of yourself and a loving and accepting of yourself so that you can accept somebody else. It doesn't have any negative indication on you if you listen to someone share something.
Yeah, most certainly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's why I said it would be you don't love yourself because if you love yourself, you have forgiven yourself for the things that you've done. And if you've forgiven yourself for the things that you've done, you should be able to share the things that you've done. So because you've forgiven yourself and you're past that, that might not be or that's not you anymore. But there was a time where it was you, and that is what it is. And if you're doing something that you don't feel that you need to forgive or that's who you are, you keeping it to yourself, you're not being able to share it in your relationship anyway. So you're still isolated, you're still alone, and you're not yourself. That's prison to me. I wouldn't want to be in that predicament.
Predicament either. But as we're reflecting on chemistry and compatibility, these what we just talked about was really like an element of evaluating compatibility. And so let's go to chemistry. What does intentional dating look like? So, like I said, it's culturally acceptable to initiate dating by being attracted to somebody's physique or how they show up, right? Which is why we can see there's a lot of effort put into the outward appearance or all the accoutrements that go up with that, right? Because I want to attract the attention of the potentially the opposite sex or a partner to get to the conversation about dating. So this it's almost like the plumage of the peacock, right? We come out and put our plumage out so that we can get attention, so that we can then start to sort through all the people who give us attention and say figure out if that's who we want to date. I think that no love comes from a different perspective. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what is intentional dating versus just casting a net and seeing what you catch?
Wow. I hope people are not casting nets and just seeing what they catch. That is the concept is crazy to me. But intentional dating is having a non-negotiable list, having morals, principles, and values that you define, and you understand that this person must have this in order for me to move from just dating them to actually transitioning to a romantically involved relationship that can evolve into marriage. That's another thing that's interesting to me, or evolve into a relationship that I guess would be similar to a marriage. You're living together, you're creating or purchasing assets and everything
Level of
together,
commitment.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Commitment, monogamy. That person is chosen in as your person. So you should know. I put it to you like this: if if you have a child and your child went missing, the people would come to you and they would ask you things. What are they going to ask you if you call them and you need them to help you find their child? What are they going to ask you?
What was they wearing the last time you saw them? Where were they? Do you have a picture of them? Um,
Why would they need a picture?
because they would have to be able to identify the person as the one that is missing when they do find them.
Exactly. So they need to understand what they're looking for. So to date without a list in the sense of morals, principles, and values, which are standards, you can never find someone that you have not described. So intentional dating is to have a description that is past the exterior because people can wear costumes. So if you have a
No,
costume,
full stop moment. Don't lose your thought though. But there is a need to know what you're looking for from morals, values, and principles because people can wear costumes. I'm
yes,
just gonna
ma'am.
let that sit there, and you go on and finish.
All
Everybody
right,
work for
perfect.
yourself. Sorry, I'm not even comment. I'm gonna let you go on.
So aesthetically, time itself is going to change the person. That's what I need people to really grasp the concept of. So yeah, you can he or she could be five, whatever. Even even your height changes as you age. Your height changes, your width changes, your face, your hips, all of that stuff drops. Like all of that stuff changes. So if you the depth of the person is not understood and identified, the things that you're looking at aesthetically, job markets can change. We're looking at that right now. So if you're talking about figures or whatever, that person may have it at that moment. That person might lose it. Like all of these things, if you're making your decisions based off of that, those things could change. But the core of you, the morals, principles, and values, which again you can measure, we discussed watching movies. You can look to see how they respond to a movie, how they speak to the movie, or the discussion after the movie about how they received what happened in the movie. As you all interact, the way that they speak to other people or those who are not
Let's speak to
quote
the
unquote
waiter. If you ever have somebody that's being rough to
exactly,
the waiter,
exactly.
that's a pause.
I have to, I have to tell
Wait, what?
people this all the time. If he or she is only nice to you, don't feel special. But see, here lies the problem. If you have low self esteem, you will. You
If you
understand what
have
I'm
low
saying?
self-esteem,
You're
you
not
will only see, and I will say that one of the things as a woman who has grown through stages, we are myopic at some points in our life. meaning that we're only looking at the features, especially if we, as we started this conversation, if I'm going into dating, it's all about me getting my needs met and getting, make sure my ego gets stroked, and
Exactly.
making sure
Exactly.
then I am very myopic. I am not even at the perspective position to be able to look at how they treat other people because all I care about is how you
Exactly.
treat me. And
Exactly.
all I care about is what you
Exactly.
do for me, and whatever you do
Yeah.
for somebody else don't matter. However, your core character, values, morals dictate how you show up in the world,
Yeah.
regardless of who you're with.
Exactly. It's not going to turn on and off. That is who you are. So, but again, if you have a low self esteem or you don't love yourself, you might get jealous that he's a nice guy or she's a nice woman. So these are the things like if you don't have love, you're missing out on key things to be checking off of the box to notice because of your insecurities versus realizing that this person is just a genuinely nice person and you got a good one. As opposed to, well, he's evil to such and such, but he's really kind to me, or she's really evil to a whole bunch of people, but she's really kind to me. So I know he or she likes me. No, no. That means you have not reached the category of those other people yet. And there is a day that you may very well become whatever category that made those persons worth being cursed out, treated bad, or whatever. You can become that category. Where these are things that are necessary to look for and identify, but you have to know what they are before you go out to date. So that's what I mean by intentional.
Love it. So we are going to do another element of the lab, which is we're going to pull some cards from the game, one on dating, one on marriage, one on relationships. And we're going to go through a scenario and we're just going to unpack it a little bit. And if you see yourself or your thoughts that you have, please drop them in the chat or, just reflect on them again from the lens of, chemistry versus compatibility, short term versus long term, quick hit versus, fulfilled, evolving, healthy. Like there's all of these things are what we need to evaluate as we determine how we want to show up in relationship. So I'm going to start with dating because technically you don't pop into a relationship. You start with dating. And here's the scenario. Card looks like this. When dating, you're adamant. So this is a scenario. When dating, you're adamant that you are to be treated with respect. Your voice will always matter and be considered, and you will always be treated as an equal. Isn't that funny? Because I didn't even know this was the card that we were talking about there. You will always matter, and you will always be considered, and you will always be treated as an equal. Yet, you don't put your values into practice when interacting with the people you date. Back to single. You'll never experience a happy relationship if you are the only one being respected. Go ahead, sir. Unpack that for us.
Mm. It that goes beyond just respect. So now we've just discussed that you should have morals, principles, and values, and it seems like that person has great morals, principles, and values, but they seem hypocritical about them. So at minimum, you should be who you're looking for.
Ooh, at minimum, you should be who you're looking for. So I'm gonna just caveat to that. Opposites. We think opposites attract, and this goes to compatibility. What are your thoughts? If you're at least be who you want, like talk to me about that. How does that relate to opposites attract? If I'm looking for me, then
That's a great question. So when when it comes to opposites attract, it's typically their reflexive responses in the way that they approach life, not necessarily their morals, principles, and values. So I can be a let's go with the basketball. We could all be basketball players, but you could be a center, I could be a forward, I could be a point guard. So my approach to the same thing, we both love basketball, but the approach to it is going to be different. I don't expect for you, the center, to be shooting 3-pointers. Now the game is changing now, so that might be a thing now. But I expect for you to be down at the
The
block,
basket, getting these rebounds and
exact,
blocking. Mhm.
getting rebounds and things of that nature. I don't expect you coming up the court handling the ball like a point guard. So where we have the same interest, we have the same values, we have the same passion, but the way that we approach said passion or thing is different. So that is what I mean by opposites attract, not that we have opposing values or opposing beliefs. Those should not be opposing, because now we're talking about bringing someone in the world like a child, and whose values are they going to adopt? Now we got to discuss how we share that. When you are passionate about these said values, this is how I want to bring up my daughter or my son. And it's like, no, this is how I feel. Like, these things are very, you should be intentional about them, and you should really consider that, because now you have to share and build and evolve a human being with these things that you all should be sharing collectively before you move to the more serious approaches to life.
What jumped out at me from this card is the word adamant used multiple times.
Oh yeah.
So when you're dating, you're adamant that you're to be treated with respect. Your voice will always matter, and you're to be considered, and you will always be treated as an equal. And just that always that adamant posture to me jumped out, which, to your point, may have absolutely amazing morals, values, and character, but there is some level of concern that is raised for me when you have to be so overly concerned about it. I feel like for as you get to a space of confidence, right? Because you have had those thoughts, you have done your inventory, you have done your list. You're now evaluating. You don't have to speak so harsh about. You don't have to be so forceful. I think you can be consistent, and that speaks for itself without being now committed. I can see if this is when you're dating, you're committed to being treated a certain way. You're committed to making sure that your voice matters. I don't know. That just kind of rubbed me a little funky.
No, I like that you said that, because to your point, if those are your morals, principles, and values, or your standards, you won't even be in a predicament long enough for you to have to make sure that that is understood. And that card is suggesting that you're speaking about it and having to defend a
Needed.
stance that you have over and over again, which suggests that, for one, you're thirsty enough to stay in that predicament in hopes that this person is going to finally get it, as opposed to saying, this person is not for me because they don't practice that.
I'm
But
talking
at
about
the
moral
same token, at the
values.
same token, because you don't have it yourself, that is why you're staying there in hopes to get it. And when you do have that shift and you become what it is that you expect, you won't even attract people like that. And you would not, as I shared, stay and deal with it to where you have to make a stance. I will be heard. My voice is equal. My this is that. You don't have to do that. You just carry yourself in a manner where people know that
Yes, it's art.
you're not.
My voice is important. I don't have to tell you
Yeah,
it's important. It's important. I promise you.
exactly.
I open my mouth to speak, to say something. I've
Yeah,
thought about it.
yeah.
Is it open for discussion and feedback? Absolutely. But will I be heard? Yeah, because I respect you enough to pause and communicate and say what I want to say at the right time in the right space. But it's coming from a space of, yes, I know I am valued. My voice is important. Lovely conversation about that card. So we're gonna move to relationship, which I think is before marriage. Marriage could have a relationship after, but I'm just gonna use the relationship now. So this is another scenario. You keep complaining to others about how poorly the people you end up with treat you. Back to single. Realize that people treat you the way you allow them to. We just having a bang up night on. I just tell you. I mean, can you imagine playing the game and these two cards came up in the same pull? I'd be like, come on, man. What are we trying to stack? Just kidding.
Yeah, no, but people do it. It's so interesting. And that goes back to what I said. When you have standards, morals, principles, and values, and you love yourself, you're not going to be in predicaments where you have to have conversations and complain about how people are treating you. It just won't happen. You're not going to be in a predicament where you're in a relationship. So, based off of the simulation, you're dating, and it suggests that you moved past, I'm just dating this person, to I have claimed this person as someone that I want to evolve and move toward marriage with, or even move into a relationship that is identified as something similar to a marriage, as far as the weight of it and the approach of it, living together, having children, and things of that nature. So, for you to move from dating, which I promise you, all of these signs are there in the dating phase. And if they're not, you're moving too fast. So all of the signs are there. And if you love yourself, you will notice and identify them, which is what the whole premise of no love is. Getting to a place of loving yourself so that you can ultimately end up in a loving relationship, which in turn turns to a loving family, community, city, state, globe, things of that nature. But it has to start with you. And you would not be in a predicament where you have to always complain about how men or women treat you if you're treating yourself right. It just won't happen.
I'm gonna go left a little bit. Um,
So,
let's just assume the relationship they've dated, they addressed, they have a little bit more confidence. I'm going to use me as a scenario. I've come in, I've dated. That was my first card. I worked on it. I don't come across so, and I'm just like, no, I'm good. I'm courage. I can speak my mind. I can be consistent. I can be honest with myself and with the other person. Now, I'm in a relationship, so this has been going on a long time. And what if the other person hasn't evolved at the same rate that I have? And they are now behaving differently, and they're starting to maybe treat me differently, or a pressure point in their life occurred. It could be a financial, crisis. It could be health crisis, and another part of their personality comes out, and they're treating me in a way that I'm not being comfortable with. How could I use and leverage the loving of myself and the grounded in my that help me deal with a situation like that?
I need, yeah, I'm lost because my initial response, but I really don't
So let's
understand
just say
the context of the question
relationship.
because,
The context in the relationship, you keep complaining about how poorly the people you end up with treat you. I've just shifted it just a little bit to I'm in a relationship and now I'm complaining about the way my partner is treating me. But I preface that with there may have been a crisis that occurred that took them out of their character. They may be dealing with the health, and so they're stressed or they're in pain or there's something external that triggered them. And now here we realize that people treat you the way you allow them to. So how could I behave? How should I posture myself or position myself? I'm in a relationship with them. Something has changed on the external that has caused them to show up differently. I love myself, yet I have to address this in some way. How can I be
okay.
grounded in my approach?
All right. So, couple things. One, character is revealed by circumstance. So, whatever pressure you had, that is the truth. I want to start with that. That's almost like people saying a drunken lie is a sober truth. When you were drunk, you were saying what you really meant. Matter of fact, when people are dating or they're engaged and they come to me before they get married, I ask them, "Have you all had any arguments or fights?" They're like, "No, we've never had that." So then y'all aren't ready to be in a relationship. You don't know how he or she really feels about you until they're upset with you. So when you say a circumstance has happened that it caused them to be out of character, no, the circumstance caused them to be in character. All right, so I want to start with that. So they showed you their true self. Whatever happened, be it death, they lost their job, whatever, they are now showing their true form. Their default setting is what you're dealing with. Two, based off of the scenario card, if that is the case and you're talking about how do I approach it, why are you talking to someone else about your partner? You should be addressing that person with what you got going on and how and correcting their behavior toward you if you're deciding that you're going to stay, to give them the opportunity to self-correct or whatever you want to, or explain their actions. Maybe it was read wrong, and you received it wrong, because that's not uncommon too. That's why I always have people say, I mean, I tell people to inspect what they expect. Hey, when you said or did this, this is how I took it. Is that the way you expected for me to take it? If they say yes, now you have enough evidence to either pivot or stay. If they say no, now you have opportunity to grow in intimacy, because now you understand that, wow, I read that wrong, and you receive what they clarify based off of what they really meant, based off of their intent, based off of the statement that they made or the action that they had or whatever. That is where you can get clarity before you make a pivot. So I would definitely recommend getting clarity, because we read things wrong, especially if we've been in bad relationships. We have things that look like the previous relationship and can trigger assumptions and thoughts, which in turn make us make poor decisions, and then we leave or flee when we missed out on the opportunity for intimacy and understanding. So that is definitely a great question. You definitely should clarify before you check, but when you check, believe them and then make a decision.
think that the answer that I'm taking from that is, because I'm being honest with myself, because I'm coming to this with courage and grounded, because I know who I am, I can ask a difficult question. And I can have an honest conversation with someone who's maybe emotionally in a state that isn't typical, but I can hold space for that, give them grace, ask the question, and give them a chance to, number one, observe how it may have made me feel, and number two, explain to me what either was the genesis of that behavior or where they may need to reflect personally and adjust. But either way, I think that, to your point, moving from dating to relationship, we've invested some time. I ought to have been able to show up in a way that I can ask the question. I can have the conversation with my partner and we can resolve it, which you said leads to more intimacy.
Most certainly.
Love it. This one is
Mm.
marriage. And so this scenario is, you are a model student when it comes to the subject of your spouse. You are always attentive and take note of anything new that you learn about your spouse. It's safe to say that you study your spouse. And because you study your spouse, you succeed at fulfilling his or her needs, wants, and desires whenever the opportunity presents itself. Take another roll. Finally,
Mm.
a good card. We don't have to go backwards.
Finally, a good card.
we,
They're all good
we can
cards.
progress in our growth in person. But there's a couple of things that jump out at me here, which is interesting. Um, you study your spouse. Number one, talk to me a little bit about studying your spouse. And I know that you talk about this in your relationship IQ book, and I know that it's a theme that goes to a successful relationship.
Being a student of your spouse, that's just being attentive. It's paying attention, watching, observing, listening.
Being
So
curious, right? So, it sounds like it's staying curious.
most certainly staying curious, but it's funny. That's what intuition is. It's noticing that a pattern has shifted. People claim that, there's women's intuition. I'm like, okay, if you say so, a pattern was broken and you noticed, and you're like, something's off. That's what happened. I have that. And any person that is paying attention will have it. Hey, what made he or she do this? He normally does this. What's going on? Especially when you're talking about uh, long-term relationships, people's body change, the way that they respond to things change, their taste buds change. You can't be buying in bulk and they have different taste buds. You're gonna have to switch it
We
up. You're gonna
used
have
to
to,
like ketchup, and now we like barbecue sauce. I used
you
to
know
like,
what I mean?
salty. Now I like
Yeah,
sweet. You know.
exactly. So you have to pay attention. And the only reason you would need to be a student is to suggest that they're evolving. So that in itself, the fact that you would need to suggest that you're in a good relationship because you only have to study things that are new. And the newness is what maintains and sustains the relationship. So that actually it could help or hurt the relationship because if a person never evolves and they stay stagnant and you are a student of them, you will get bored. You will get bored. The relationship will get boring. The sex will
Keep
start to
boring.
dry up figuratively and
Practically.
yeah, practically, yeah. So that is what I mean by being a student. So some like my wife, she she probably feels like I'm a magician. I just hear her saying things. She might talk. She might have a taste for something. I can just sense her or whatever, and I'll leave and I come back and that's what she has. It's not because she had to ask for it. I can hear her talking about it. I can hear her saying stuff. I can see how she responds to a commercial or an ad or whatever, and I say and make a mental note. Oh, she likes that, or she has a taste for this, or whatever. Especially, I mean, we're grown ups, especially in the bedroom. If
No, we want that guy.
if you're not paying attention, and she
Oh
says,
girl.
"Ooh,
Oh
right
girl.
there,
Yeah.
ooh, right there," and you start going all in the wrong direction because you're not paying attention, you're not a student of her. You are ruining precious and memorable moments. You should be very intentional and be focused on them. But again, I guarantee you, I can attest to a guy or girl where they say, "Ooh, right there," or keep doing that, and they just got excited and they're doing something totally different or hitting a totally different spot or
That's not
whatever
it.
because they
That's not
that's
it.
not yeah
That's not
not
it.
that's not what I was talking about because they're not paying attention. So these are the things that I mean by being a student, just being
It's being in
attentive.
tune. I think being in tune, and it goes to, and I think this starts to bring in the chemistry component, right? I think that chemistry not only is that first initial spark, but I think, like you said, once you can see past the superficial, that chemistry can kick in again from a different perspective because you're intuitive and you are responding, and your response causes me to respond, and we're back and forth, and there's an in tune, and there's that intimate dance that goes back and forth, which can kind of feed the chemistry, which keeps us connected, right? Which keeps, and even in friendships, when people are caring, they're thoughtful. They are when you are communicating with them and they're present. That causes you to want to do the same for them, and it's a give and take, and that connection keeps you growing in a relationship as a friend. And so I think that it was a beautiful way to bring back together that all of our conversation tonight has been about just understanding the nuance between those two, how they contribute to a successful relationship, and how we can be intentional. I think one of the things I'm remembering about this, the takeaway for me, is to be actually be who you're looking for. Uh, I love that because I wouldn't even know if they showed up if I hadn't actually decided that's what I wanted. They could have been here, could have showed up in my life 2 or 3 times, but I don't know because I didn't know what I wanted. And
Even more deeper than that, if if you are being who you're looking for, then you don't need who you're looking for. There will be no loss
If they don't
if
show
they
up.
don't choose you. If they don't show up, if they don't quote unquote exist, there's no loss because you already have it. There's no desperation in your choice. You're very intentional. If you love yourself, you're not looking for someone to love you.
I think that goes to
You're
coming to
you're
a
you're
relationship
you're
whole.
looking for someone to share in the love that you already have.
Yes.
Uh, So to even the only thing I would tweak in what you said a moment ago is I don't think it would turn to a give and take. I think it would evolve into a reflexive inspiration to just do. Because when you're around certain things, you just become those things reflexively. That's why I struggle with the concept of the prison system. So you mean to tell me you want to bring this person into an environment where people are conspiring to do bad things, or they typically all do bad things with the hopes that you're going to produce a better person or person with better logistics and optimism and things of that nature. That's what your psychology is. So that's what I'm saying. So in the reverse, if you're in a relationship with someone who is loving, that's ultimately just like an accent. You might be from up north, you moved down south, you didn't even realize that you started talking with a southern twang until you go back home. And they're like, "Oh, you country?" or you Geechee because you've been in an environment that caused and inspired and reflexively made change happen. It wasn't something that caused a back and forth. It's just something that is when you sit in it long
Yeah, well, I got into that chapter of life where I just am who I am. Okay.
enough.
Um, take it or leave it. I'm not happy. I'm not judging whether you take it or leave it. Because to your point, I think this is the one. This is a funny. I'm gonna end it on a funny. Is I think a couple of years ago we had a conversation where I was lamenting about wait, what does the card say? You keep dating the same person. Anyway, so and so you were like, it just takes you back to where you were. Like being without somebody is who you were anyway. Like why is whether they're here or not? Why
Yeah,
still be with me at the end of the
it's
day anyway. Whether I'm with somebody or
it.
not, I'm still gonna be with me. So
So I tell people, I'm like, they get so anxious about evidence, yet they're excited about what they don't have evidence of. They don't know what will happen if he or she says yes, but they're worried about what will happen if they say no. You already know what happens if they say
you
no.
right back where you
Your
were.
situation is a no situation. You're not with them right now. So you know what that looks like. And people will conspire and say, oh, I'm going to end up with 50, 40 cats and I'm not going to have this. And I'm like, no, like, look around.
You ain't
You
gonna
have
be
no one right
here now.
now. That's this right now is your worst case scenario. What do you have to lose? So I tell people you can either gain or break even. There's no loss. You've just taught yourself that it will be a loss, but you break even.
That's true. I think that is a beautiful thing, and I will even say that at a certain level of maturity and self love, you either gain or you enjoy. Either way, I'm good. Um, because we're made as a unit. We are a full being, and we want to connect to enhance and to enlarge our territory, to grow and to expand and to continue to, but that doesn't negate the ability to do that as an individual as well. So this is about the simulator. That's what we did today. Was go a little deep dive into what this show is based on, which is the relationship simulator. And we really hope that you enjoyed this. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close, sir?
It all starts with you.
It all starts with you.
It all starts with you. If you love yourself, if you have a better you, you'll have a better too. So you work on you, and your relationships will evolve because people will naturally start to attract to you. But if you don't like yourself, you're either going to attract people who are not going to treat you well because they won't like you either, or you're going to not attract people at all. And I hope you get the latter, because to add someone to you that doesn't like you is dark. It's bad. It's dark.
I know we all know
Really.
somebody who has experienced that if we haven't done it
Yeah.
ourselves. So again, this whole journey that we are on in the No Love Love Lab, and the Love Lab, which is based on and built on some of the principles that are in No Love, and through the lens of some of the experiences I've had as a coach and in relationship with Eddie, is really meant to just be thought provoking and to stimulate self reflection so that you can come to relationship with
A
perspective
knowing.
and knowing. Right?
Yeah.
We want everybody to know love. So thank you for joining
Exactly.
us today on this episode. We look forward to you joining us again on our next episode. And thanks so much. Have an amazing day.
So it was a pleasure. Y'all be safe. Peace.